Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. This session focuses on sociolinguistic phenomena and a real and familiar world. Well, my dear students, I hope and expect that by the end of this session, you would be able to relate sociolinguistic processes and phenomena to the real world in which we live, and you would be able to understand how does it relate to the familiar surroundings of language use and usage in our world. Well, at the outset of the session, what do we need to think about? Think of your life and think of the world in which you have grown up. Each one of you has a different set of sociocultural setup and the linguistic choices and the linguistic identity items that are related to you. Now think of an imaginary world as well, and imagine that you belong to a world where people are, this is the world of Amazon, where, people are fluent in Tucano, that is a trade language, that is a lingua franca for them. And why I'm going to make you think of your world and your life and then imagining yourself in this particular world that I'm talking about is that I want you to understand that when we use language in a sociocultural context, there are so many things that we take for granted, that we think they are a part of language and society relationship automatically. We do not question all those things and we just use them as very natural. But when you would think of all this by placing yourself as a real member of this community that I'm going to talk about, you would realize there are actually how many questions to ponder over. So if you think of yourself as a member of this community, where you are a member of this tribe, sitting in a longhouse in the northwest Amazon, telling the residents about their language, what kind of language they have. If you share your world experience of the kind of language you use, and you tell them about your language and they tell you about their language, what would happen? Here, the kind of information they would be expected to provide would cover both very general and in some ways very specific. Who else speaks that language? Where do these speakers live? Do they speak any other language apart from that particular language? When do they speak this? What do they say when they meet for the first time? When they meet a stranger? For example, what is the word for fraternity for that? So think of your own language and think of your own setting. In this gathering, if you are sitting, how would you tell what is the word that is used for fraternity in your particular language? What are the meals that are eaten at different times of the day and what are they called? So in their language, there would be different words. In your language, each one of you would have a different set of words. Are there any special ways of talking to young children? By the way, are there any certain ways of talking and showing respect to the elders? How do you count in your language? How do numerals work in your language, etc.? So, these are all the points to ponder over. Is there any way of showing that you are quoting what somebody else has told you? So, when, as for example, in English, we use direct and indirect speech. And when we use direct speech, there are certain ways of quoting the words of the other. So how does it operate in their language and how does it operate in your language? This is another point of concern. How do you show that the thing you are referring to is already known to the person you are talking to? Are there different ways of pronouncing certain words? Can a single word be pronounced in different ways? If yes, how? If no, why? These are another important aspect of questions that need to be considered. In fact, politically in answering every one of these questions that so far I have posed, something will not only have been said about the language, but also about one or another aspect of that particular society in which that language is being used. How people are addressed, how children are talked to, how greetings are exchanged. This is not an exchange that you would be making with these people of Amazon tribes. But also, this would provide insights to you and to them about these two different sets of societies that you belong to. The point of all this exercise that I have asked you to think about being in your familiar world where you live and then transporting yourself to this world of the tribes of Amazon and to exchange with them this knowledge of language. The purpose of all this exercise is to help you understand and to make you aware of how much there is to say about when you think of your language in relationship to society. And actually, this relationship of language with the society is something that is, an area of study under sociolinguistics.